Hi everyone, I am back a lot earlier than usual. So normally I make a video like once every, well, I was going to say week, but that's a blatant lie, usually every 2 or so weeks. But now I'm back kind of just within a couple of days. And the reason for that is I thought about something I wanted to talk about. So I decided I would make this video now while everything was in my head. And I really wanted to answer the question that's kind of in the title here, which is why I didn't come out earlier as a transgender person. Why did I come out at, I was 27, rather than say when I was a teenager or a child? Because we know there are trans children. We know that from the number of kids that have come out. We know that lots of trans people know that they're trans when they're kids. So why didn't I? Why don't some of us know? Why is it that we come out when we're adults in our 20s, 30s, 40s, etc.? Because people do come out at all ages. You know, there are people who come out when they're in their 50s, and there are people who come out when they're 9. And why is that? And well, I don't have all the answers because I don't really know. It's something I've thought about a lot, and that I worried about in some ways. Apologies if there's a lot of background noise. My laptop has a really loud fan. So it is something that I've kind of thought about, and you know, I've even questioned like, I don't want to say am I really trans, but do I qualify, or is there something that I should have picked up on, or why is it now? And that is something that's kind of circled around in my head, and I guess I'm going to do my best to answer this here, because it is something that some people have asked me, and I expect some people have wondered and not asked me because it seems a bit rude. And it kind of is. Like, I mean, it's fine if we're friends and it's the right moment, but yeah, it's definitely not one for just a text, you know, hey, why'd you come out last year and not, you know, 10 years ago? um, So, I don't know. I mean, I look for reasons, I suppose. I look at my childhood and go, was that a sign? But it's funny because I don't know if I've told this story. Apologies if I've told this and I'm just, you know, repeating myself. But my sister would do this thing. So I have an older sister, and older siblings are horrible. So a younger sibling, so I was horrible to her and she was horrible to me. And she would always tell me when I was a kid that I was actually a boy and that my name was Harry, and my parents didn't want a boy, so that's why I was a girl. And it used to really upset me because I was like, I don't want to be a boy when I was a kid. And so then I look at that and I'm like, well, that doesn't check out. Like, surely I should have been delighted. But then I think about it and I'm like, no, I was a kid and my sister was blatantly being horrible. So no wonder I was upset. So I think, you know, there's this temptation to kind of analyze every single thing you've experienced and go, oh, is that a reason why? Like, do I have some kind of deep trauma from this, or, you know, is that a sign that I'm not actually trans, because otherwise I would have been happy? And it's just pointless, right? It's pointless going and doing this. Am I saying that childhood doesn't affect you as an adult? No, of course not. We know that it does. We know that experiences in childhood can have a huge effect on who you become as an adult and how you experience the world, and any mental health struggles that you have. But there's also plenty that happens when you're a child which just isn't a factor, and I think it's about being realistic and separating some of that out. And sometimes I have a tendency to kind of look too deeply, and then I have to be like, no, this is not a factor at all. And I think that's one of those things. So it does make me laugh now. It does. Like, it's kind of ironic. And actually, when I was talking about names and thinking about things, I think I was joking. There may have been a joke with my sister that Harry was not going to be a name I chose for that reason. So then what was it? You know, why did I come out last year, and why didn't I come out as a child? And I think some of it is that I just didn't know. So I never felt really comfortable in who I was. I always felt like I didn't fit, and some of that was exclusion because I'm blind and I struggled with access, and I struggled to kind of make friends, and I wasn't very good at that, and I found it so difficult. And there was just this inherent feeling of wrongness, I suppose. And yeah, I mean, that's hard, right? Because you're a kid and you just don't feel like you belong. You fundamentally feel like there's something not right. And it does mess you up in a way. So I really struggled with that. And I think a lot of that was being blind. And probably, you know, having some other undiagnosed stuff that now I have kind of answers to, that kind of makes more sense. But was any of that being trans? I mean, maybe, right? Maybe I didn't feel like I fit because there was this other layer as well. And I don't know, you know, I can make guesses, but I don't know. Did I ever like being a girl? Yeah, I mean, sure. Being a girl isn't horrible. It's not a bad thing. There's nothing wrong with being female. It just wasn't right for me. And there were times when I really wanted to. I think I said in my first video where I talked about coming out that I really tried to be a girl, and I did. I really, really tried. And I just couldn't. And it wasn't that I just wasn't good at girly stuff, because that doesn't matter. You can be a girl who has no interest in anything that's stereotypically girly, because that, again, that's just all arbitrary stuff. That stuff doesn't matter. That stuff isn't what makes you you. We've just kind of told ourselves that women have to be a certain thing and men have to be a certain thing. And that's bullshit, isn't it? That's complete shit, because girls can climb trees and like science, and that doesn't make them any less of a girl. So again, I would rationalize it like that. I'd be like, well, I'm just not good at that kind of stuff. But it just felt so much more fundamentally wrong than that, because it was like I wanted to be and I couldn't, and I wanted to like my body, and I wanted to feel good about it, and not just at the level of like, oh, I wish I could make changes to my body. I mean, I still wish I could make changes to my body, just like beyond being trans. So that there's that, but it went so much deeper. It was just this constant feeling of discomfort, and I don't know when that started, and I don't know how to pick out kind of what's regular discomfort from stuff that's specifically related to being trans, because there's not an easy separation. It's not like you can pull it apart and say, these are my trans feelings, these are my blind feelings, these are my, I don't know, insecure feelings about something else. It doesn't really work like that. It's kind of all pushed together. And you know, I didn't even have the language for a long time to kind of know what being trans was. The only trans people I heard of, well, I didn't hear of any trans people. All I heard were kind of insults being used. So like implying people were trans as an insult. That was all I grew up with. So I didn't actually really know what it meant to be transgender. And I don't, it's so hard to explain that, because I think most kids grow up now with really good access to that information, but I just did not. I grew up at a time when, yeah, okay, I had the internet, but I don't think there was the level of information on the internet that there is now, and it wasn't so readily available. You know, we didn't have things like TikTok. I feel like such an old person right now, but we didn't have stuff like that. You know, you added your friends on MSN, or on MySpace or whatever, but there wasn't that broad access. And I think there was in some places. There's definitely people who found it, but I think maybe they were slightly older than me and kind of knew where to look. But as a child and young teen, I would have had no idea where to look. And I was so consumed with the feeling that I was fundamentally damaged and broken because I was blind, right? So I really subscribed to that belief. And that's not to say I don't have issues around being blind or haven't had issues. Yeah, 100%. I mean, I think that's pretty normal to bring along some baggage around that, which I would say I've dealt with a lot better actually than I had even 2 or 3 years ago. But I really believe that that if I could figure out how to be happy as a blind person, then everything would be great. Everything would be fine, and I would suddenly become a girl in the right way, and it would all be great. Obviously that didn't happen, and as I got older and older, I think, again, I really tried to be feminine, so I would wear dresses and skirts and things like that, and in general feel kind of uncomfortable and awkward, but I also really wanted to, so I would really like it as well, because I would feel like if I was doing it, I was doing something right, and I was doing what I should be doing, and that was really important, you know, that I did the things I was supposed to do. And it all kind of just imploded a couple of years ago now, so let me think of what year we're in. Oh my god, this is absolutely ridiculous that I cannot, yeah, so it would have probably been around 2 years ago, that I was like, no, this is just not it, and I had a lot of time to think. Thank you, pandemic. For one thing, it gave me a lot of thinking time, and I read a lot, and I read a lot of things other people had written, and I was like, maybe I'm non-binary and I just need to wear a binder and then I'll feel good. And I bought a binder, and then I had a massive freak out about wearing it, and I didn't wear it. I tried it on and I was like, oh, this is amazing, but I never wore it because it was like, oh, I can't just start wearing a binder. That's not, I don't know what I don't know how, like, as in, I knew how to wear a binder, but I didn't know how to just start wearing one and be like, yeah, this is what I do now. I felt very constrained by other people's expectations of me and who I should be and who I was and who I fundamentally was not. So it sat there in a drawer and just sort of existed at the back of my mind as well. I moved to Leeds a year ago now, and again was supposed to come out when I moved to Leeds, did not do that because again I was too scared, and it really took me till the summer, and I'd met people who I knew would accept me, and this was the thing. There were definitely people in my life before who would and who have accepted me, but what I had in Leeds was a group of people who were around me day to day who I knew would give me that acceptance, and that was really important because it kind of gave me the strength to be like, okay, I can say this, I can do this. And the full story of how I ridiculously came out to everyone, and I do mean everyone, on one day, well, one morning actually. I told that in another video, which I'll put here. But I think a lot of that is why I didn't come out when I was younger, was not really realising that was the problem. Not really knowing what being trans was or having access to that information, and then not really knowing how to say, this is who I am. And also just this constant desire not to be, like, just to be okay in my own body. And I think it has upset people. I really, really do think there are people who feel betrayed or disappointed that I didn't come out earlier, because it's like, for them, they think, well, how are you a real trans person? Surely you're just jumping on some kind of bandwagon by coming out at this age. Surely you're just finding something to make you interesting. And trust me, if I wanted something to make me interesting, I'd have like taken up the unicycle or something, because like being trans is not, I mean, I guess it's interesting, but not in the way you want to be interesting, right? It comes with paperwork and discrimination and surgery. Like, who wants to sign up for surgery and be like, oh yeah, like, cut me open and remove bits of me? That sounds great. But you do it because, I mean, what other choice do you have? Well, you do have a choice to live in the body you have, but you can't do that. You can't sustain that. And I mean, my mental health has been, wow. My mental health has been complicated because I've had some pretty horrendous things happen over the last year. But in terms of my future and my body, actually it's been great. It's been so much better. So I think if I'd had to live as a girl for the rest of my life, as a woman, and try and fit into a body that was not right for me, I mean, I don't know. I don't know that it would have ever really been that great. I mean, I just find it baffling that people would even suggest that this is something you do for attention or to be interesting, because there are so many things I want to do to be interesting. Like, I actually would like to be more interesting than I am, I'm not gonna lie. But like I said, I would take up some kind of weird hobby or interesting, I don't know, sport or something. Not fundamentally alter my entire life and change the landscape of how I date and who I'm friends with and how people perceive me. I just find the fact that people would even suggest that completely ridiculous. And I know I've kind of responded to that in a very strong way, but I really do feel that it just doesn't even make sense. It doesn't make sense that people would suggest that at all. I can't speak to anyone else's experience. I can't say why other people don't come out later on, earlier on, or why some people do come out when they're very young. I just don't know. I think maybe some of it is the information we have access to, and some of it might be the people they're surrounded with, and some might be that they just have these really overwhelming feelings of dysphoria and they know exactly where it's coming from. And sometimes people may feel like they need to hide because they are already in a relationship, and how do you come out when you're dating someone? Thank God I was single. Honestly, thank God, because the idea of dating as I'm going through so many changes is terrifying. And I just think trans people who come out when they're in a relationship, it must just be so hard. And I do appreciate that it's hard for their partner too. And just navigating that situation, I am very thankful that I haven't had to. I'm not sure that I answered the question in the title. I'm really not sure that I answered, because I'm not sure that I have an answer. I don't know that there is an answer to any of this. All I know is where I am now, and how I feel now, and how I feel about myself, and how I feel about my future, and all of that. And I feel good in who I am now, and in who I'm becoming, and in the changes that are happening. And it just feels right in a way that trying to just be in the body I had was not right, and has never been right. And that's all I've got, I guess. Can't tell you why I didn't come out at 16. Can tell you why I came out now. So I don't know that this was helpful, but maybe it helps to know that there isn't a clear-cut answer, and that kind of what you've got to do is just meet a trans person where they're at and understand that none of our stories are the same, because we are not the same person. We're all different people with all different experiences, and my experience is just my own.